Gueldre is a character probably not a lot of people summon for, but he's actually a pretty okay character. I'm not going to say he's really good. I'm also not going to say he's bad. He's just okay as a character. And before we get any further into this video, if I am pronouncing his name wrong, I do apologize. With a name like this, people say it differently all over the world, right? So it is what it is. I'm going to call him Gueldre for the remainder of this video so you guys know what I'm talking about. And today we're going to be talking about how you want to actually build this character, what skills you want to upgrade first, what skill pages you want to equip to him, what gear you want to put on him to maximize his potential, whether or not you actually want to enhance him, what talents you want to run on him, and then of course what teams he's going to fit well on for both PvP and PvE. Okay, let's start by talking about his passive. His passive grants 10% increased max HP upon getting him to LR status, so that is really good. When we get to his skill 2, you'll understand why it's so good. His skill 1 here is called Invisible Attack. It is a single target attack. It grants an increased defense level 1 buff to the ally with the lowest HP ratio for 2 turns. That's really good because that means every turn you can potentially give 105% defense to an ally with the lowest HP ratio. Now, when we say lowest HP ratio, I do mean the ally that has lost the most HP. I don't mean the ally like with the lowest starting HP, okay? So that's what it means when it says lowest HP ratio. And then for skill 2, it is called Invisible Great Mage. It is going to grant a designated ally and self 15% of own max HP as barrier for 2 turns, and you can increase how much barrier you get by upgrading this skill. Okay, so it increases it by 16% if you get it to max level, which is actually pretty good. And then additionally, it's going to grant a designated ally protection for 2 turns. Protection means they cannot be selected as an attack target, which is decent. Okay, I'm not going to say it's crazy because there are a lot of attack alls, right? But it's decent. And then grants a designated ally an increased all attack level 2 buff for 2 turns. You only get this effect right here though if you have his skill card, and I do think this effect is what makes him actually really viable for PvE. Other than that, if he didn't have this effect right here, I mean, I probably wouldn't choose him first as a PvE supporter because he doesn't really offer anything besides survival to the team unless I was going against like a raid boss. But because we have this right here, I think that right there actually makes him super viable in PvE because now he's going to be giving attack, he's going to be giving barriers, and he's going to be giving protection, meaning your allies can't be targeted and they have to target a certain ally, right? So all of that stuff is really good and actually really solid for PvE. In terms of PvP, it's okay. It's not going to be anything super broken or crazy. And then his special skill is called Invisible Troops. It is an attack all. It grants all allies a Fortify level 3 buff for 2 turns. That is pretty good because that reduces damage taken by 34%. And then also, this is the really cool part about him, grants invulnerability to the ally with the lowest HP ratio for 3 battle turns. Okay, notice they have put battle turns and not just turns. Okay, that's the tricky part. So your ally is immune to damage for 3 battle turns, and so that means basically every time a character in the battle takes a turn, that counts as a battle turn, right? So be careful about using this. It's not 3 of your turns, whichever character you put this on. So let's say you use invulnerability, you put it on Black Asta, for example. It's not for 3 of his turns. You're not waiting for him to come around 3 times and get 3 turns. It's like if Gueldre goes, then Black Asta goes, then Julius goes, that is your 3 turns. You're done. And the invulnerability goes away, right? So it's not the greatest. It's also not terrible because it is invulnerability, but it's just, it's meh. It's not great. And then for his combined attack, it is a 80% chance to inflict buff immunity on an enemy for 2 turns, meaning they will be immune to buffs or not be able to use buffs while that is active. So that's actually a pretty decent combined attack. I wish it could be upgraded to 100%, but it is what it is. Now, in terms of upgrade priority, I would go for the skill 2 first because that increases your barrier, which is pretty decent, right? Then I would go for the AoE special skill just to upgrade the damage. Then I would go for the skill 1, and then I would go for the combo attack in terms of upgrade priority. Now, in terms of skill pages, I do really like his skill page on him. because it gives them that attack. Also, it gives a 31% chance to grant remove 1 debuff upon taking damage anytime you take damage, so that is pretty solid. But there are some other options. So for other options, this is one I actually like quite a bit for an SR skill card here. It's High Priest Mischief. It is the Gifso skill card, and what it's going to do is it's going to grant 5 to 10% increased HP recovery received and 5% increased max HP to self. And remember, his barrier scales off of max HP, so that's actually pretty good for Gueldre. And then if we go over here, this is another option that I really like, Adventurer's Journal. It is applies 10 to 20% increased max HP to yourself. So once again, really good option for him. And then you could also run, these are not going to be HP ones, but these are other options you could run. Oath of Protection, and so applies 20 to 40% increased damage resist to the ally with the lowest HP for 1 turn upon using skill 2. Does that not sound like it goes perfectly with Gueldre's abilities? I feel like that's pretty good, and that's Vanessa's skill card right there. And then we could also run Sally's skill card, Insatiable Quest, which is just always a very good supporter skill card. Upon using skill 2, applies 10% increased all attack to the ally with the highest attack for 2 turns, and since it's on skill 2 that's already doing so much, that's pretty dang good, right? So even if you lack Gueldre's skill card and you aren't able to give the increased attack with his skill card, you are able to give it with Sally, so that is another potential option you could run on him. As for gear on Gueldre, this is kind of how I would build him. I'm going to say this is not perfect, okay? So let me explain my sets before we get into this right here, okay? So sets wise, I would go for a gold HP set to increase his max HP by 7%. You can absolutely go for a regular HP set if you want, but I would actually probably recommend going for a mobility set over a regular HP set right there. I would go for a gold mobility set. Unfortunately, just everybody needs gold mobility, and I don't have enough pieces to put on Gueldre, and I don't think I'm going to use him as much as other characters, so I didn't see a point in actually putting a gold mobility set on him right now. But he does have pretty decent speed at 115, so giving him a gold mobility set will help him to use like his skill 2 first or his special skill to give your team the barriers or the invulnerability that you like. So a gold mobility set is probably better over a regular HP set right here, but you could absolutely do an HP set like I'm doing right here just to give him more HP. And then the last set I would go for is actually a gold defense set. So I have a regular defense set here, once again, just because I have my gold defense pieces on better characters. But if you have the pieces to spare, you should go for a gold defense set, because gold sets are always going to be better, as you see, plus 7%. Than regular sets where it only gives plus 2,000. 7% is going to be far better than 2,000. And so what do I mean when I say gold sets? You're looking for that gold star right there on the set. That means it's a gold set. So you can always find those by going over here to grade, set, and then if you look here, you have attack, defense, HP, and then you have attack, defense, HP, but these ones have gold stars, right? So those are your gold sets. Now, in terms of actually setting up your gear here, you do want to go for HP. Okay, so you'll see that all of these are HP pieces, and almost none of them are upgraded to like plus 8 or plus 12. I do need to do that on a lot of these. And then I also need to work on substats. So in terms of substats for Gueldre, I'd probably go for like defense substats, crit resist substats, and or damage reduction substats, damage resist substats. Those are probably what I would go for on him if you can get them. HP is also a big priority, so that would be like your number one. But then besides HP, I would go for those other ones: defense, damage resist, crit resist, stuff like that. Okay, so HP number one, and then those other things. And so you're going to go for 4 HP pieces here, and then you're going to go for 3 magic attack pieces down here if you can. Notice this one is attack, and this one is attack, just simply because I didn't have magic attack pieces. But if you can, you want to go for 3 magic attack pieces down there to increase his magic attack. This is very much a character that is going to scale off magic attack. So in terms of builds, mine right here is definitely not optimal, but hopefully that kind of explains what the optimal build would be to you guys. Okay, so that's the gear for Gueldre. And then now let's talk about enhancement. Is he actually worth enhancing? Is he worth trying to max dupe? The short answer is absolutely not, okay, because this is like a skip banner. There's much better characters. Just the time he's coming out on global, it's probably not worth it. But then if we look at his enhanced passive, grants 10% reduced damage taken when HP is at its max, only when it's at its max, okay? That's the problem I have with it. If you drop below max, like, it's doing nothing. You have enhanced him for nothing. And then it just increases that when you get him to a 5 dupe, right? So grants 20% reduced damage taken when HP is at its max. If it's not at its max, it does nothing, right? So it's just like, I would say absolutely do not worry about enhancing this character. Don't worry about maxing him out. If you get 1 copy, I'd call that good enough, call it a day. Now, in terms of talents, I would go for the magic attack, like I said, because his magic attack is going to scale more than attack. And then I would just go for the stacking crit rate. That's probably going to be the easiest thing to go for on him. And then defense-wise, this is a little bit different than normal. I would go for the stacking defense and crit resist, but then instead of going for the flat defense increase, I would actually go for the max HP increase, because remember, his barriers scale off of max HP, so that is a pretty good option for him. And then support-wise, you could either go for swiftness to get back his special faster, or you could go for Mage's Blessing to get his skill 2 back faster. It doesn't matter either way, whichever one you want to go for. And then I would go for damage resist as your other option. So I would go for one of these two and then damage resist. So those are kind of the talents I would run on Gueldre. Now, last but not least, let's talk about his teams. So this is probably the team I would run right now in PvP. I wanted to like try to put him with Black Asta, but I feel like it's kind of pointless to put him with Black Asta because of what he does and what Black Asta does. It's not great. So the idea behind this team is, assuming you were not able to pull Black Asta, but somehow you were able to pull this guy, right? Then this guy is actually a good filler, because normally this is like a team I would run with Black Asta in his spot. But I feel like he can be a good filler here. So Valtos gives you speed. You have Julius for big burst damage. You have Noel for the barriers. You have him for extra barriers. You have him for invulnerability in case somebody like Noel gets low, right? Which is really nice. And then you also have him for some extra defense on his skill 1 for whoever gets low as well. So he's just like a pretty good all around, support. He's not going to be anything broken or anything crazy, but given the right circumstances, he could definitely work on a team. I will be showcasing him later, so if you guys would like to see how he actually works in PvP right now on Global with the current meta, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and go down there and hit that like button on this video. Okay, next we got Team 4 here. This team is another potential team you could run in PvP. I don't think this team is going to work super well, unless there is one specific thing you need to do. You need to build the crap out of Longris here. If you build him to where he is just a beast, right, then you have all the defense in the world you need. You have defense here, you have defense here, and then you have speed here to help your team go first, and then Longris is going to be able to go and just repeatedly nuke the enemy with this special after he steals some points from one of these characters over here. Primarily Valtos is who you'd steal it from, right? So this team could work out pretty well as an all mono green team for PvP if you happen to have Longris leveled up. It does require that. That's essential. Okay, and then now in terms of PvE, this is probably a team I would run right here. So you have William for the attack buff on Raya, you have him for the attack buff as well on Raya with his skill 2, and you also have him for the barriers and protection and invulnerability and defense, all the stuff that he does, right? He does a lot of stuff. And then you have her for the debuffs on the enemy in PvE if you're taking on a raid boss or something like that. And then you have Raya for the nuking damage. Now, other options as opposed to Raya, you could of course try to run Julius, you could try to run Black Asta and let him get low on health. There's plenty of options. You don't just have to run Raya, but this is a kind of an idea for a PvE team. You could always switch out any of these supporter characters, debuffer characters for other supporter and debuffer characters, but this is just the simplest idea here. And that is Gueldre's build guide. If you guys did enjoy the video, please consider going down there, like I said before, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.